Welcome to our Lunch and Learn webinar series on generating leads, brought to you by our sponsor, the University of Fredericton. My name is Stacey Murray, and I'm the event manager of the Fredericton Chamber. Our presenter today is Rivers Corbett. Rivers is an award-winning serial entrepreneur, speaker, author of 2 books, 13 Years of Entrepreneurs and 10 Business Secrets You Should Know, as well as the host of the National Startup Canada podcast show. Most recently, Rivers was the entrepreneur in residence at the University of New Brunswick. He has received numerous business honors, including the 2015 Business Person of the Year, listed on Canada's Hottest Startups list and Canada's Fastest Growing Companies list through Profit Magazine, and one of Canada's 10 Mentor Rock Stars awarded by Startup Canada. Besides family, friends, and the New England Patriots, Rivers' passion is starting and building businesses in the first 5 years of their life. He owns 3 businesses, the Chef Group, Relish Gourmet Burgers, and Coaching by Rockstars, and is presently launching his 4th business to help nonprofits and charities raise money through a gaming technology. Ladies and gentlemen, sit tight. You are in for a treat with today's presentation. Please welcome Rivers.
Thank you, Stacy. Didn't she do a good job? That she just got back from Hawaii, so she's very much on sleep mode a bit. Although it was a couple of weeks ago you got back, right? Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, thanks to the Chamber for leading this presentation and bringing it together. I think it's so cool that the webinars really afford so many people in so many different areas of the province get involved with the value that comes out of these. So congrats to the Chamber. And also the University of Fredericton. I have to put a little bit of a admission into this presentation. I was coming down to the University of Fredericton and saw 32 people signed up, and they showed me into this small room, and I said, because I'm used to speaking in front of people, and I said, oh my gosh, how are you going to fit 32 people on there? And they said, Rivers, it's a webinar. And so anyway, here I am, and of course it makes sense because with the University of Fredericton being, one of the top online schools on the planet, that we're here doing webinars with this great organization, and they've got a great curriculum of subjects and people helping to lead those subjects. So thank you to the University of Fredericton for helping to lead that. So anyway, today you're going to learn a little bit about lead generation and growing your and the fact that I think a lot of people are really growing their business in the wrong way and doing that lead gen, and so this presentation is going to take you through a mindset journey. It's really going to get you to think differently and then subsequently act differently when it comes to generating leads and helping you to grow your business. And so I hope you get some great value of it. I know that when I've done this presentation before, a lot of people will afterwards say, wow, that's pretty cool stuff. So, all right, so now I'm pressing the button to make sure we can go forward. Okay, there's the presentation there. All right, so the first thing I want to talk about is kind of putting things in a position where I think a lot of business owners, and it doesn't really matter to me if you're small, medium, or large, they really go through this whole scenario of investing. In this particular case, it's a chiropractor, and through my Coaching by Rockstars business, we get various clients, and this is some of the case studies that we have, who was, he's previously spending $10,000 on radio advertising, and there's nothing wrong with radio advertising, but in this case, he ran the ads for several weeks. The phone only rang 15 times, resulting in one patient at $1,900. And I know there's some accountants and bankers on the line here today or on the webinar. That's not a good return on investment. And ultimately, it's an $8,100 loss on an investment of $10,000. And so, that's not what we want to do. We want to make sure there's a positive return on investment. And so what we did with our business is we took that $1,300 of their marketing budget, basically changed what the radio ad said. Instead of getting 15 calls, we generated 137. That resulted in more revenue for the chiropractor. And that's what we call getting more results, making more money for the same time, the same money, and the same effort spent. So when people look at marketing, there's really two main components you need to look at. And by the way, marketing to me is all about leads. It's all about getting people excited to learn more about what it is you do as a business owner, what your clients do as a business. And once they're into your business, once they're connected to you, then that's when the sales process takes over. So I just want to define that differently for you, is that's how I regard marketing. It's the lead gen. It's the initial connection that gets people excited, interested, motivated to find out more information about your business. It doesn't necessarily do the sales part. And there's two components to any type of marketing plan: strategic marketing and tactical marketing. And strategic marketing, it's what you say and how you say it, and the tactical piece is how you do the execution. And where I see a lot of clients, a lot of people, particularly in the beginning, is they jump into, I got to do an ad, I got to do a website, I got to get my business card, I got to get the tools in the tool chest together before they even really know as to what they're going to do with those tools in the tool chest. So strategic marketing is all about what you say and how you say it. And in my opinion, it's the key to ultimately having the success. The key to effective marketing is to master the strategic side, not the tactical side. And 99% of businesses focus on that tactical side first. You see, it's what you say in your marketing and how you say it are almost always more important than the marketing medium itself as to where you say it. Yes, both are important. I mean, you can't just say a message in your head and not be able to convey it, but the real leverage is in the messaging itself, and that's the strategic side of marketing. And during my presentation today, you're going to learn how to say things in a way that will make a profound difference in your marketing results. By the way, if you have any questions when we're going through this, just feel free to leave the questions in the sidebar. We'll get to Q&As at the end. I'd be pleased to answer those. And so don't feel you have to wait until then to do it. You can put them in there and we can keep a record of the questions. So here's a question for you. How many sunrooms have you ever bought? Now, my guess is that there might be one person out of the 32 that are registered for this webinar today that would have bought a sunroom. Well, you know what? Do you have any idea whatsoever how to buy a sunroom? I sure don't. And I sure don't know the difference between a $10,000 sunroom and a $25,000 one. Well, when people need to buy what it is that you sell, they are generally speaking just as clueless as I am about what you're selling, what's involved with ultimately buying the sunroom. And your job as the marketer, as the lead gen, and I know there's some salespeople on this webinar today too, your job is to facilitate your prospect's decision-making process. All prospects and customers basically want the same things. They want to feel confident that their money is being well spent and that their decision has been made to the best of their ability. And of course, they want to get the best deal. Well, that makes sense. People instinctively want to make the best decision possible and not feel like they've got to second guess their buying decision. And that's where your job comes in as the marketer, to make them feel comfortable in that process. Well, I love this picture. For those of you that would remember, this is Buster Keaton from a long time ago. I don't know who the young lady is, but I love this is because this, to me, defines what marketing is all about. These two are on a date, and you can just look at the eyes in that guy's face. I absolutely love it. He's going in for the kill. And so what you need to understand is that business relationships, particularly in the beginning, are all about dating. It's about making sure that you are consummately involved with what's in the best interest of the person that you're trying to date. And so when I talk to high school students and so on, I remind them of that, is that the dating game is critical to ultimately creating interest, but then also creating long-term engagements, which ultimately turn into marriages. But it all starts with the dating game. So you as a marketer, you as a dater, need to figure out what's important to your prospects. You need to educate them as to what constitutes the best deal when it comes to buying what it is that you sell, and then show them quantifiable proof that you actually provide the best deal in terms of price and value. And what's interesting is all of this has to be communicated in a way that they're going to pay attention to, believe in, and then take action on. It's not just about one of those things. It's about all of those things together. And by the way, if you're always competing on price, I hate to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, it's your own fault. You really your lack of marketing ability has led to a situation where there's no difference between you and your competitor, and there's really been no additional parameters or relevant issues introduced to educate your prospects as to what really constitutes the best value when it comes to buying what you're selling. I really believe that. If you're competing on price, that's your fault. It's nobody else's fault. And trust me, it's no fun when you're ultimately always competing on price, particularly if you got to go up against the likes of Walmart, which are all about price, price, price. You can't win that game, particularly as a small business operator. So you must let marketing do the heavy lifting for you to deliver eager, qualified prospects to your sales funnel. And just like the dating game, yeah, well, there's lots of people you can date, but it's the qualified ones, the ones that you have in your head, that you ultimately want to end up dating. Competition today, it's so friggin' fierce that it's really, really becoming something that you need to be concerned about. And, you know, right now I ask you, how many competitors do you have right now in your business? I know there's bankers who are on this call. I know that there's accountants. I know that there's salespeople. Multiple choices that your prospects now have, and that's how many additional businesses that they have to sift through and filter through as they attempt to reach a buying decision. So in the old days, they used to have wallflowers on the wall at the dances, and that's, you know, if you didn't stand out, if you weren't unique, if you weren't connecting with the person that was going to dance, then you were just like everybody else on the wall. That's not what you want to have in this particular case. You want your customers to know you're standing out from your competitors. If you want to know why Jane Doe buys what Jane Doe buys, you've got to see the world through Jane Doe's eyes. And that's maybe what who the lady is that Buster Keaton's connecting to is Jane Doe. Maybe that's her name. But most businesses know what Jane Doe wants, but because they aren't communications experts, they really don't have the ability to communicate through advertising and marketing their inside reality to the outside world. What you are and the value you represent and the uniqueness you represent is not being conveyed from your proper messaging to the outside world. And if they can't lead their prospects to say that they would be an idiot to do business with anybody else at any time, anywhere, at any price, then you're not doing your job. So what about you? What's your outside perception? I want you to look at your ads. You don't have to do it right now, but as part of this process, I want you to go back afterwards, and I want you to look at your ads. I want you to look at all your communications pieces, whether it's your website, whether it's your business card, whether it's your flyers that you have, whether it's landing pages. And you want to ask yourself the question, is it instantly obvious, specifically and quantifiable, what makes you better, unique, and different? Do you show your prospects how to judge your industry? What factors they need when considering, when deciding what to buy? How you provide greater value than any of your competitors? Most businesses, unfortunately, the outside perception, it is not an accurate reflection of their inside reality. And I always use this example. Go to the yellow pages under real estate agents. And 99% of those real estate agents in their ads say exactly the same thing. So if you're trying to ultimately decide as to what real estate agent to initially connect with, they're all the freaking same. So now what happens is the agent ends up having to reduce their commission rate because they've been able to not convey what their value is. that's where they end up competing on price. As an example, take a look at the Yellow Pages if you still have those in your in your home. But it's a true story and happens with regards to that. And why has this happened? Well, because jargon has started to dominate all marketing and advertising. When I say jargon, you know, I want you to think about words or phrases that are commonplace, everybody's saying, predictable, and they lack the power to evoke interest through because they're used by everybody. And that nevertheless stated as if they were original or significant. So let's kind of get into some. Here's some examples of jargon. And again, when looking at your own marketing, are you doing some of this stuff? Are you talking like this when it comes to trying to date your customers to get them interested in what it is that you're doing? Largest selection, lowest pricing. I mean, you can go through that, and you can ultimately been in business for 4,000 years. I love that one. I love it when I see ads that say, been in business since 1819. Well, who freaking cares? It doesn't really matter. It's not a big issue because it's not what I as the prospect really care about. It's not important to me. Here are several ways, by the way, you can easily and quickly evaluate your own marketing to avoid that jargon trap. So I'm going to give you 3 ways in which you can evaluate if you're caught in the jargon trap. And if you're caught in the jargon trap, you want to get out of it because you're looking and being like everybody else. The first way you evaluate is you go, well, I would hope so. So when you make a claim, ask yourself if the prospect's immediate response might be, well, I would hope so. And this is, again, to go back to the real estate guys. They say free appraisals. Well, I would hope so. Everybody does that. Specializing in residential properties. Well, I would hope so. You get my point? That's what happens with jargon. Here's an ad for a remodeling company that really talked about their work being of the highest quality, fairly priced, guaranteed 100% satisfaction. Well, if you're looking at that remodeling company, your natural response is, well, I would hope so. I mean, would you really hire a remodeler who didn't provide all of that as standard part of their service? Here's a consulting company. Our training leads to change. We increase the productivity, performance, and profits of your company. Well, I would hope so again. I mean, does anyone really hire a consultant for any reason than to do these things? It makes sense. You're not standing out from anybody. You have an expectation on that. The problem is that if your company has an exceptional inside reality and you're using the same jargon as everyone else that I just talked about, then it doesn't matter how special, how unique, how wonderful, how absolutely spectacular you are. If you're using the same jargon, then the outside perception with your people who you want to date is all the same. And that's when prospects default to the company offering the lowest price because there's nothing to differentiate themselves. So ask yourself openly and honestly why anyone would choose you over your competition in your messaging, in your outside reality. Then evaluate your answer against, I would hope so. All right. I'm just going to take a little drink of water here. So I emphasize again, business is a dating game. You need to understand what your prospect's needs are, and then the messaging needs to focus in on it. So date your customers in a way. And by the way, the honeymoon stage in the dating process is the most wonderful, wonderful part of any type of relationship building. I think we would all agree with that. And why is that the case? Is because we are all about learning and responding to who and what are the needs of the other individual, and we make sure our messaging is all about that. It's not about jargon. So here's a second way you can do it, that you can evaluate if you're using jargon. Who else can say that? So I want you to stop thinking in terms of who else can do what it is that you do. Think in terms of who else can say what you say. Now remember, this is all about lead generation. This is all about getting people interested in having a relationship with you that could potentially turn into sales for you. So it's not who else can do what it is that you do? There's lots of banks around town. There's lots of lawyers. There's lots of burger joints actually too. You got to think in terms of who else can say what you say. And the answer is usually anybody and everybody can say what you say. And if you're trying to date your customer, that's hard to differentiate. That's hard to be competitive with. Here's a kitchen remodeler that ran ran an impressive remodeling company. And these are examples through our company. Well, their inside reality was literally second to none. I mean, they were really the best of the best of the best. But their marketing looked virtually identical to their competitors. Their marketing said certified subcontractors, guaranteed satisfaction, new cabinets installed, etc. Oh, I love this one. They accept Visa and MasterCard. Woohoo! Yeah. Oh, boys. Can't wait to get to do business with these guys. Well, who else can say that? The answer is everybody. It's not who can do what you do. It's who can say what you say. And if your marketing is full of jargon, then sadly the answer is all of your competitors can do that. Okay, let's get down to one final jargon detection evaluation. It's called the scratch out write-in test, not scratch and sniff. It's called the scratch out and write-in test. I want you to take a look at your marketing. Scratch out your name and write in your competitor's name. Interesting exercise. Again, it's a dating game. If you can do, if they can, if your competitor's name fits within that, then you're not different. If they can say what you say, you're no different. Okay, so let's get into the dating equation. What's the dating equation to best increase your results to ultimately get your client, your prospect, the person you want to date, to pay attention to you and then start to connect with you in a way that starts to fulfill a very solid relationship over a period of time? And if there's one area of this conversation or this presentation I want you to keep a track of, and by the way, we're going to be recording this. I think it's press record. Yeah, I got a nod from Stacy. We have press record, which is good. Is this area right here. Following these 4 key elements of the dating equation will give you great success. And it has 4 main components. One is interrupt. Getting qualified prospects to pay attention to your marketing. And that's often accomplished by affecting the prospect emotionally. The dating game. Then you got to engage with them. You got to make promises that information is going to forthcome that will help the prospect make the best decision possible. You then have to educate them, which is give them information that allows them to logically understand how and why you solved that emotional problem. And this is accomplished by many different things. And the last one is the offer, which is a low or no risk way to take the next step in sales. When we date, we say, hey, you want to go to a movie? Hey, you want to go out to dinner? Hey, you want to go for a walk in the park? No risk, low risk. So that's the dating equation that we're now going to take a quick walk through. But if you want to know what Jane Doe buys, you've got to see the world through Jane Doe's eyes. However, if you want to know what Jane Doe sees, you've got to first understand her brain. And by the way, for total transparency on this conversation, I'm not talking about a male brain and a female brain. I'm talking about how the brain works and how it processes information and makes these decisions. And really, to understand this process, you got to know 3 major concepts. And this is where no one else in the world of marketing understands. Now, that's a pretty broad statement. Okay, I'll say that maybe 2% does. But they're going to make all the difference in the world with your marketing's effectiveness and, more importantly, in your company's profitability. And by the way, if you've got a marketing company that you work with now, that's fantastic. Now you're going to be able to have a conversation with them that challenges them to deal with these strategic issues to making your marketing the best marketing on the planet. It's not about pretty pictures. It's not about pretty videos that make all kinds of wild noises and so on. It's about effectiveness and ultimately into your company's profitability or for your portfolio's profitability and so on. Okay, the 3 things you need to know about Jane Doe's brain are these: downtime, uptime, and the reticular activation system. Downtime is basically that hypnotic state of running automatic patterns that allow your brain to perform habitual tasks without any conscious effort. Think about driving in a car. Think about just kind of gazing out the window. Just think about all the stuff that goes on every day in your life where messaging is coming at you and you're not really noticing them on a conscious level. People see and hear ads with their eyes and ears, but they don't notice them on a conscious level. And by the way, when I say ads, I mean marketing, okay? So that's an important reference point. The uptime is the time that the brain's state of alertness or active engagement is on alert. You're on alert mode. And in marketing terms, your prospect, your client, notices your marketing, and they're open to continuing the dialogue with you. And the key to marketing, in this case, to get your client out of downtime into uptime is once you understand this, then you're going to have the ability to make a fortune with your marketing. That's the tough part, is getting them out of downtime into uptime. And then, of course, there's the reticular activator, which is your part of the brain that's really on the lookout 24/7. And what the keys activators are, they're broken down into things that are familiar, things that are unusual, and things that are problematic. And when you get the client from uptime into this reticular activator process, you have really hit a home run with it. So what does all this have to do with marketing? Well, it's really everything, because it's all about getting the reactions or the actions that you want to have your prospect ultimately want to engage, connect with you into an initial relationship or a longer-term relationship. So understanding what wakes people up so they pay attention is what's going to get your marketing message past the interrupt stage and into the engage stage. And when we engage your prospect, as I've mentioned earlier, you've increased your chances of selling to the people you're trying to engage by 1,000%. The reason is because you have now got their attention and they want to learn more. So this is going to solve the problem that every other marketer hasn't been able to figure out, which is not just getting them to be interrupted, but also getting them engaged, and not just finding any old activator, but finding the right activator. And for those of you that have children on this call, I have 3 of them. You know, all 3 of them, I can get them from downtime to uptime. For my twins who are 17, that has to be in the afternoon, of course. But ultimately, both of those twins have different activators that will ultimately start to really engage them in what it is that I want them to gain. You know, because I'll be blunt, idiot can simply interrupt people. That's real easy using activators that are based on things that are familiar and unusual, because they're easy to pull off. Activators based on unusual thing is what creativity is all about. There's that Gecko, I can't remember what the company is that does it, but they use the Gecko all the time. And that's a great activator to get people to pay attention to something unfamiliar. But maybe it's Geico. Maybe that's what it is. But that's based on unusual things. But again, it's the dating game we want to do. We want to get to the reticular activator to have people ultimately pay attention to what it is that we want them to pay attention to. So an activator is something that snaps a person from downtime to uptime, and it's based on something familiar, unusual, problematic. And I'm going to give you some examples here as we go down to the presentation. But an activator can also be classified as a hot button if and only if it's based on something that's relevant to the prospect. Hence the dating game. If you've got all these hot buttons, but they have no relevancy to your prospect, then they're just going to scoot right back down to downtime again. Even though you may have interrupted them, got them interested, well, if it's not something that's relevant to them, then they're just going to basically go back to the downtime again and ignore the messaging, ignore all the value, ignore all the costs that you put into your marketing. Successfully interrupt and engage your client by identifying problems, frustrations, uncertainties, and annoyances that your prospects have. This is basic business. And what's interesting, when we build businesses, we build them on the basis of finding problems or challenges that people are having. Then we try to service them in that regard or provide them with products to ultimately deal with those. But when it comes to delivering that message that we understand their problems and services, or the problems and frustrations, we don't do it. And their pain in most cases for the client is their hot button. We're tapping into the problems that the prospects already have, and we're poking their problems and pointing out these problems so the reticular activator notices it and stays with us. And that's what's critical, is the staying piece. The activators that are used to interrupt the prospect must be based on a keyword here, relevant hot button. That's what the dating game is all about, the word relevant. If not, as I said before, they'll be interrupted momentarily, and then they'll quickly revert back from uptime back into downtime. And this is what we call false uptime. How are we doing for time? All right, I'm doing well for time. And this is one of the things that almost no one understands, and one of the main reasons why everything you've ever learned about marketing is wrong. And I know you're going to look at marketing in a totally different way now that you understand these things such as dating, such things as reticular activators, such things as messaging, and not necessarily pay attention to, well, we need to do a flyer, we need to do a brochure, we need to do an event, we need to do a webinar. You have been conditioned to believe that as long as you've interrupted the prospect, that that's good enough. Well, I've been in a couple of situations where I've tried to get attention. This is of course before I was married, with a lady, and I may have interrupted her, but the messaging that came out of my mouth was bad, and she quickly avoided me, and I would have avoided me too. So if you only interrupt the prospect, that's only 1/4 of the conversion equation, and you've got to include all 4 components: interrupt, engage, educate, and offer to get the maximum results from your marketing efforts. All right. When writing the marketing, we need to portray those hot buttons in the form of headlines. And headlines are the interrupters. And the headline is really the first opportunity you have to actually do the interrupting. And the key, though, is that you need to have the headline have the activator in it. And this is where a lot of people don't do that. And those activators must be based on things that are important and relevant to that prospect. The hot buttons, words and phrases that need to be there need to describe the frustrations of the prospect. I mean, you only have to look at, again, a lot of the ads in Yellow Pages, a lot of the ads in a lot of marketing that goes online. Most people, most businesses always lead in the headline, the interrupter, with them, who they are. And it's not about that. It's what the headline needs to be, is what's important to the customer, to the prospect that you want to date. So here's an example about daycares, what I mean by interrupters. Here's a daycare provider. Now, if anybody's ever had children, there's a point probably where you needed to choose daycares and actually choose among 17 other ones that are out there. So here's some of the things that the daycare providers in this example from our clients that we're focused on, or sorry, we're dealing with. We have high quality. We attention to detail. We supervise our staff better. Well, that's good to know. We've taken care of more than 200 kids. See, nothing but jargon. It's all what they call platitudes. That's what jargons are. More daycare marketing, safe, nurturing, creating environment, optimize your children's development, acclaimed by thousands of parents, and so on and so on. What's interesting about those headlines, ladies and gentlemen, is when you go back to them, isn't it interesting? They all speak to the daycare, not to the prospect. And that's what people are ultimately doing with their businesses today. They are talking about themselves rather than talking to their prospect and dealing with their problems, their pain points, their hot reticular buttons. So Here's an example of how we ultimately started to change that. Just look at the headlines right here. Ever felt like your daycare treated your child like a number instead of a little person? Wow, right to the reticular activator. Ever felt, is your daycare's idea of good educational curriculum watching Barney on TV? Wow, what an interrupter. Tied right to my reticular activator, if it indeed fits with where I am and where my problem is. Guy like me, I'm not interested in daycares right now because my children are older. That's not going to resonate with me. But you know what? The daycare doesn't want to talk to me. They want to talk to those people that are in a position who are looking for daycares. Introducing the daycare center that doesn't consider mac and cheese to be one of the 4 major groups. See the difference in the type of headlines. See the difference in the type of interrupters. And this can all come into any type of marketing that you do. It's just not about ads. It can be radio. It can be billboards. It can be websites. It can be landing pages. It can be social media campaigns. It's all about getting the right interrupter in place. It's all about the messaging. Here's another one with a child psychologist. Works with kids with behavioral problems. And you know, most of these types of professionals say things like, we offer parenting advice and resources. We can help get your child under control. Learn the secrets of well-behaved children. Well, as a parent with an out-of-control child, why would I not know the secrets of behaved children? I got an out-of-control child, so I don't want to talk to the guy that's got behaved children. Well, no one is getting this correct, and everything you really do know about marketing is wrong because it has to do with messaging. So here's how we went about and changed that psychologist and what he was doing with his marketing to this type of interrupt. Are you sick and tired of the yelling, screaming, and belligerent attitude of your child? Just sticking to the headline now. Yeah, you got my attention now. My kid's pissing me off. I can't wait to the time that maybe I can put that kid in bed with a bunch of Gravol because it's really, I'm in pain all the time with that. Okay, if I'm in that position, my reticular activator is up. I want to learn more. Here's another one with a moving company ad. What we had, they had headlines, that were all about, hey, we move. Yeah, I would hope so. Their company name. They do local and long distance. Can anybody else say that? Absolutely they can. So what we did is we changed the copy in their marketing, and this company went from it just changed what it said. It didn't buy anything different, but they went from generating 11 sales per month to a whopping 649 sales per month. I don't know what the dollar sign's doing there. Generated so much business that I actually had to go out and get some partnerships in their business. But here's what it said. Last year, over 4,350 complaints and lawsuits were filed amongst moving companies in Dallas. Got my attention? Absolutely. Do I want to be in that position if I'm looking for a moving company? No, you don't want to be in that position. I want to read more about this particular issue. So the next thing we want to do is once we have the interrupt happening as part of the dating equation is we want to successfully engage them. It's not just good to interrupt, we want to engage them. Well, all you have to do is now use the subheadline or the headline that promises the reader, promises the viewer, promises the listener, if they will keep listening or reading, that they will get more information that will help them facilitate the best decision possible. Sometimes the headline does this, but you know what? It's actually, most cases, it's the second line that actually does that. So this is what happened with the ads. Here's the moving company one. Ask these 15 questions to make sure your moving company policies, procedures, and standards will protect you from an unpleasant moving experience. I'm now engaged because I now have to learn more about the 15 questions. Under the under this one, and sorry, off the WebEx we can't easily show the other ones behind this slide, but it talks about now you can get instant access to help when it comes to dealing with your belligerent and screaming child. And it goes on and on. But the second piece helps to engage the viewer, the reader, the listener into learning more about their relationship with you, their potential relationship. Every marketing piece should contain a risk-lowering offer to encourage the prospect to continue the next step. It's a date they're on. It's not about, hey, it's nice to meet you. Do you want to get married? No, it's about how do they continue the relationship on in a way that's important to them, but in an easy way that they say, yeah, I'd like to continue on and learn more. Here's the real key to success, though, ladies and gentlemen, is the right offer allows you to capture a large percentage of future buyers in addition to those looking to buy right now. And I see this all the time with business owners, all the time. They're looking for the buyer who wants to buy now. And most marketing addresses only that. And it does little or nothing to educate those who are just thinking about it right now, but who might buy later. I mean, just go back to that moving example. You know, nobody wakes up one day and says, let's move and let's do it tomorrow. They actually go through a process where they're thinking about doing it. And so most marketing, though, only deals with the interrupt and the buy now. And it's really about the relationship that comes together that ultimately creates the opportunity long term. Because at any given moment, the number of prospects who are ready to buy right now represent really no more than 1 to 5% of all those who are ultimately going to buy what it is you sell. So really 95 to 99% are in the thinking about it and the gathering information mode. And you've got to be able to stay connected with them in a way that will keep you developing that relationship. So you got them, you interrupted them, you engage them, which is great, you educate them, which is great, but if you're not going to allow them the opportunity to continue on with developing a relationship with you, you've missed out on 95% of the prospects because they're not in the buy now mode. And that's why the fourth component is so important. We talked about interrupt, engage, educate, and now we're talking about offering. And at this component, it gives you the opportunity to provide the person you want to date additional educational information to the gathering information mode prospects only, and to capture valuable information about them too so that you can proactively market to them on an ongoing basis. It's the dating game again. You learn information, you continue the dating. And they may not be willing to date seriously, but you're learning by learning more because you're going to give them an offer to continue the relationship. Then you can ultimately increase your probability that those leads, the ones that are in the not buy now process, will ultimately be the ones that will buy from you when they are ready. So here's what a lot of these, what some of these ads do, and you can kind of see down here on the right-hand side. And I apologize again because of the WebEx issue, but it's all good. So you see down here it says, yes, send me the 3 report of 15 things your daycare might not tell you. Fill out the information. It's a free report. I now have information on name, address, telephone number, all those sorts of things, which allow me then to categorize it, allow me to put it into a Salesforce.com database, and then begin to nurture the relationship going forward. But you see, it's no risk. So I've given them all kinds of value propositions as to who I am and why I'm great at what I do, but now I want to make sure I'm in control of continuing the relationship. And in this case, it's not buy. It's not come in for a quote-unquote free consultation. It's I'm going to give you something that's free, that's easy, and very valuable for you. In this case, it's the free report. And this was what they call a landing page, by the way, from on a website perspective. Here's some more things that come out of the daycare operator. Again, call this number, leave some information here, but it's all about headlines, it's all about subheadlines, it's all about education, and here's the offer. On and on it goes. That's the dating equation. interrupt, engage, educate, and offer make up that conversion equation. And if you follow that dating equation to a T when it comes to developing and executing your marketing activity, your lead gen activity, then you will date as many people as you can handle, because you are doing something that 99% of people in the marketing world are not doing. And that equation is literally the background of all of the successful marketing campaigns that we've used to help our clients. It works, it's valuable, and it's free to you to use. And that's it. So I hope that that this has been of value for you. I don't know if anybody has any questions now. I'm just going to kind of just. Oh, yes. Stacy, can I do my promo now?
Yes.
Okay, so Stacy said I could do my promo at this point in time. For those of you that listen to my bio, I'm very passionate about the entrepreneurial journey and particularly the small business owner and the startup who really have to scrape and fight and battle every day. And so as part of that process, I'm building a business now called Coaching by Rockstars, where I'm training business coaches to help entrepreneurs around the planet get the right guidance that they need in order to be successful in their business. I hate the term 8 out of 10 businesses fail every 5 years. My passion and goal is to help 8 out of 10 succeed. And in that regard, if you happen to know somebody that might be interested in learning about our certified system, it's coachingbyrockstars.com. Just send them my way. All the information that's there, and put my dating equation to the test at the site to see how I did. All right, so that's it for me. Unless there's any questions from anybody, I would be pleased to answer those questions. And thank you so much for joining us today. All right, so I got one from Kevin. Thanks, Rivers. Thank you, sir, very much for reaching out and saying that. And by the way, everybody will get a copy of this presentation too, so you'll be able to reference that. And that's one of the reasons why there's so many words on this presentation, is so that people can go back and reference it for their future use. All right, I'm not seeing any other questions, so I thank you again. I'm going to hand it over to the fantastic Stacy.
That was an excellent presentation. I learned a lot, and I will start dating my customers, and I hope everyone else does as well. As an appreciation of your time and expertise, the Chamber will be making a donation in your name to our scholarship fund. I would also once again like to thank and acknowledge our sponsor, the University of Fredericton, for hosting our Lunch and Learn webinar series. Thank you, and have a great day, everyone.